It's been what?
Chitty chitty chat chat.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Nerds You're Looking For podcast, a weekly nerd culture podcast. Discusses the culture through various segments. My name, of course, is Patrick Kuhn, alongside my co-host, as always, that Tyler Hunt. How's it going, man?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm a little bummed. I was supposed to have a 3-day weekend, and I found out about noon this afternoon that I was going to have to come in on Monday, so I'm a little bit bummed about that.
What's Monday? Or
I
just like take a day off? Or?
Well, our schedules were supposed to change. My schedule was supposed to change, and I was supposed to start coming in on Tuesday, and I was really looking forward to it. I was like, man, that's going to be awesome because I'm going to get off Friday, and I don't have to come back until Tuesday, so I was going to get a 3-day weekend. But they decided to postpone that schedule change for a little bit. It's actually going to be the weekend or the week after I get back from Indiana Comic-Con. So I'm still going to get that 5-day weekend that particular week. But I was really looking forward to a 3-day weekend, work a week, and then have a 5-day weekend. But oh well, it happens, I guess.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed about it. I'm still thinking about going to PopCon, but I don't know. There hasn't been any big guests that I'm like super excited about.
Never mind. I was going to just be my shitty self, but I shouldn't diss the budding nerd culture in Evansville, so I'll leave it be.
Yeah, it looks all right. Like, I mean, we're used to going to PopCon, and that's a bigger deal, and it's Evansville, and I'd like to support it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. Like
it's in a high school gym, the Armory gym.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'll probably go check it out if I can ever figure out how much tickets are. I looked this afternoon and I couldn't figure out how much tickets are, but I guess that doesn't really matter because by the time this episode comes out, it will have been over.
Yeah, for sure.
And you guys, if you follow us on Instagram, we'll probably figure out if I end up going because I'll just post a lot of pictures of it. But we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so every episode we kind of just check in with each other. We call it what we're into. So what are you into this week?
Last weekend, I went and saw Life after we had finished recording last week's episode. And I don't know, this was a movie that I was kind of getting excited for as it got close to its release date. But I didn't feel that way when I first heard about this movie. When I first saw the trailers for it, I was really confused why actors like Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal were attached to this movie because it looked like it was just chock full of space horror tropes. And obviously there was a correlation to Alien. But even in terms of space horror as a genre, it didn't look fresh to me. And I was just kind of confused why this movie existed and why it had stars attached to it. Because like I said, it looked like a ripoff of a bunch of other movies. And it started getting closer to it. And it started to pique my interest because what I didn't realize was that it was written by the guys that wrote Deadpool and wrote Zombieland. So obviously a pretty good track record. So I started to get excited for it as it came out. But when it's all said and done, I think most of the reviews that are out there and its Rotten Tomatoes score kind of speaks for itself. This is not a good movie. It's pretty generic. And like I said, that I noticed in the trailers, it's definitely full of a lot of space movie tropes. It's really cool visually as far as the actors go. Like they filmed it with them on wires, and it's kind of cool to see them, in zero gravity in the spaceship. But as far as the rest of it goes, like the creature, the CGI is really poor, and there's nothing really revolutionary going on with it. Like I think you and I were texting each other about it, and you said it looked like a face hugger from Aliens. Yeah, and it does. They didn't even, go the original route with the creature design, in my opinion. I think the performances were fine. They should have been fine because Ryan Reynolds and Jake Gyllenhaal are talented actors, but they definitely couldn't save this movie. There was just nothing bright enough about their performances that kind of made you forgive the other things. So much has been done with space movies, and there are some really great space horror movies, but this movie in particular did nothing for the genre. And this movie, in the end, it's exactly what the trailer looked like it was going to be. It's a version of the movie Alien that is not scary, it's not original, and is pretty much as generic as they come. So, it just left me with the question, why did Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds even do this movie?
Well, Ryan Reynolds probably did it because it was the guys that wrote Deadpool. Yeah,
he probably felt like he owed him a couple, so.
Yeah, I kind of felt very similar about this movie. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I love aliens and those types of movies. And it just felt like, well, first of all, from the trailers, it kind of felt like it was a little Alien and a little The Thing.
Yeah.
And it ended up not being any of The Thing.
No.
But it was all just Alien. Like, I sat down, I started watching the movie, and I was like, okay, when is it going to be different? And it never, ever got different. It was just really, really just boring. Like, I said I almost fell asleep. I did kind of doze off a little bit at one point, just for a couple of minutes, but it just didn't keep my attention at all. And then they tried to do this twist ending, and literally saw it as soon as it was happening. I was like, oh, they're going to try to trick us, and you're going to think that this thing happened, and I was like, nope. And then, of course, the big reveal like 10 minutes later, and I'm just like, come on. Like, you knew that was happening as soon as it was happening. So it was definitely disappointing because I wanted it to be better than it was. And I felt so weird about it because, like, they had to have known, right? There's a difference between like homage and then what they did was just like Alien bullet points was what it was. It was just like they had a checklist of that entire movie, and they were just checking it off. And like you said, even the creature looked exactly like it from Aliens. It was really just kind of weird that they had to have known.
Yeah, there was this hilarious thing on IMDb. The day I went to see it, I just got on IMDb to see what the score was and stuff. And the first trivia on IMDb is this movie was inspired by Alien.
No shit.
And somebody had edited it, and it said this movie was inspired by Alien, and then in all caps it said, "Oh really?" question mark. I wish I would have taken a screen cap of it because it was hilarious. Like, it's for sure a ripoff.
Yeah, it was really disappointing because I kept wanting it, like, or expecting it to like leave its own mark. Because it's fine to have a movie that's inspired by something. All movies at this point are inspired by something else, but in spirit.
I don't get how the writers, Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, how they
can explain.
Like, they've done so much stuff that's original or fun, and this movie lacks fun. Even in I realize it's not a comedy. There's no humor in it, but it's not a fun space movie. It's not a fun horror movie. So it lacks that. And then, like you said, we keep saying it lacks originality, and those guys seem to be pretty original. So I'm just kind of confused, if anything.
For sure.
What are you into, man?
So I watched the second season of Love, which is a Judd Apatow produced Netflix comedy, which I don't think we officially reviewed it on the podcast, but I think we had a pretty lengthy conversation about season 1 on one episode.
Season 1 I watched. I have not watched season 2 yet, though.
If I remember correctly, you weren't a huge fan of it, or did you?
I liked it.
Okay, I all these episodes blur together, so I can't ever keep track of what we like and don't like. It stars Jillian Jacobs and Paul Rust as Mickey and Gus, who started in season 1, kind of started an opposites attract type of relationship. And obviously that relationship evolves in season 2. I really adore this show. I kind of go back and forth about rooting for the actual couple, Mickey and Gus, just because they don't seem right for each other, at least not right for each other right now.
Yeah.
Actually, a character later in the season even kind of says something like that. Like, the character of Mickey is kind of addicted to a lot of things. She's addicted to drugs and alcohol, but she's also addicted to kind of love
Yeah.
And she goes to the love meeting, the love addiction meetings. And somebody said, I think it was like her sponsor or someone, and said, like, you shouldn't just give up on a good thing, referring to Gus, just because you guys met at weird times. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you should. Like, they're definitely, neither one of them are necessarily ready for the relationship. And it just I kind of go back and forth about whether I want to root for them and whether the show kind of wants me to root for them, because there's episodes where it's just like, it's clear to me that they shouldn't be together, especially considering season 1 ends with Mickey kind of pouring her heart out to Gus and basically telling him that they shouldn't be together and that she kind of needs to be on her own for like a year or something like that. And Gus, after she's done doing that, just his reaction is just to kiss her. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you doing, man? That's like the biggest asshole move. And the first episode is kind of, it literally picks up where the first season leaves off, and it's kind of that night. And for some, they get like weird, like movie coincidences or TV coincidences in this just like ridiculous scenario, forces them to kind of hang out that night.
Oh yeah.
And they had to spend the night together. And so obviously that kind of prolongs their relationship. And spoiler alert, they end up getting back together in the course of season 2. And it's kind of a train wreck in the first, or the middle part of the season and kind of towards the end. And yeah, I really like how this show, even though it kind of teeters the line between comedy and drama, like it reminds me a lot of You're the Worst, because there's episodes, especially earlier in the season 2, where there are episodes where it's really funny. It's kind of the Louis type of funny, though. It's dark and it's kind of awkward, but it's right up my alley. But then there's a lot of episodes kind of in the middle that are more drama, and they're fighting a lot. But it's kind of like that down to earth type of relationship. Like, not every relationship is going to be perfect, and it's kind of nice to kind of see this rom-com that is more realistic, and these two aren't just cute and cuddly the whole time. Like, they have problems. Like in You're the Worst, they kind of talk about depression and stuff like that. And in this particular show, they tackle a lot of like addiction. Like I said, Mickey is addicted to love and drugs and alcohol, and Gus is very codependent. And he even says that in one of the last episodes. He's like, well, it's easier for me to worry about your shit and kind of run your shit and keep track of how many meetings you go to than kind of deal with my own shit. So I just really like how this show's kind of down to earth. It doesn't kind of romanticize relationships, because sometimes they're not all that rom-coms crack them up to be. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, this is definitely something that I'm excited to watch. There's just so much to watch right now and so much to finish up and catch up on that it's not at the front of my watch list currently, but it's something that I'll definitely tackle within the next couple months, because I did like season 1. I think we'll probably disagree here. I like You're the Worst better than Love, but
it's close, but I think I like Love a little bit more.
Yeah, I really like the humor in You're the Worst, and
it's definitely funnier.
I will say, I don't know if you ever watched season 3 of You're the Worst, but it didn't really do it for me like season 1 and 2 did. Like season 2 especially is fantastic, but I don't know. I'm excited to keep going with Love and watching season 2 now that it's out.
For sure.
All right, comics.
Yep. What'd you read this week?
This week, I tried to get caught up on Captain America Steve Rodgers.
Okay.
And I fell a little short by the time that we had to record. I got through issue 11, and there's 14 issues out right now. So I am going to talk about Captain America Steve Rodgers, but just being upfront, I'm not currently caught up on the run. That being said, this is the comic that kind of got mainstream attention last year when it was revealed at the end of issue 1 that Captain America has been a Hydra agent all along. And then it was revealed in issue 2, like, psych. Not really. It was the Cosmic Cube altered Steve Rogers' past and his perception of his past, and so he thinks he's a Hydra agent, but that stuff didn't necessarily actually happen. It's kind of hard to tell with the Cosmic Cube magic stuff if it altered it to really happen or just altered his memories or whatever. But this comic, throughout its run up until issue 11, which I just finished, has basically been telling 2 different stories the whole time. There's the one that's the flashback to his rewritten history of Captain America and Steve Rogers and him becoming a super soldier. And then there's the current day story about his, his Hydra and SHIELD shenanigans that he has going on. And surprisingly, I've definitely been more interested in the World War II stuff, even though it's basically just a spin on the story we already know. The current day stuff is pretty much just exposition, and you wouldn't expect that given the first issue of this comic. Issue 1 was so action oriented and dealt with Jack Flag getting pushed out of the airplane by Cap, and just a lot of big action set pieces. And pretty much since then, it's just been chitty chitty chat chat.
It's been what?
Chitty chitty chat chat.
Okay.
I can't take credit. I heard that somewhere. I don't remember where, but I can only read about the political side of SHIELD so much, because that's what's going on in present day. It's just politics, and it's I'm just at this point really dying for something interesting to happen, because so far it's been really dry, and that's probably why I did not get caught up on it by the time we had to record. So I hate that this comic caught so much mainstream attention last year, and then it's cooled off so much. Like it started off so strong, and got everyone talking about comics, and then from there nothing has happened in 11 issues that's worth even bringing up plot points on this podcast. I'm glad that the Hydra story wasn't just a blip, and that they're sticking with it and they're really fleshing it out, but things need to start moving, because it is kind of boring, and at risk of sounding dumb and like I don't want to read, it's a little too wordy. So again, hopefully they kind of set some things in motion here soon, because I am getting bored.
Yeah, that's a shame. It's not a comic that I read just because of all the shit that it got. I didn't want to kind of jump on that bandwagon just because of the controversy. But it's a shame because it's written by Nick Spencer, who does a lot of really good work. He does The Fix for Image, which I really like. He did Superior Foes of Spider-Man, which I really liked. He also does, I don't think it's still going on. He did Ant-Man for a while, which is a book that I liked. I don't know why it's still not going on. Maybe I've just been missing it. Just all of a sudden it just ended.
That was weird, right?
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing the other day.
Yeah, so he did that as well. He definitely writes the anti-heroes really well.
Yeah.
So I like his writing quite a lot, but it was never a book because of the controversy. It felt like it was like clickbaity.
Yeah, that's what I was looking forward to with it, though, is it's from Cap's perspective.
Yeah.
So it is kind of the anti-hero perspective, because he has this public persona, and then, of course, behind closed doors, he's Hydra, and it doesn't work for me. He's not pulling it off with his writing, and it's disappointing.
For sure.
All right, what'd you read?
So I read Dark Knight 3, Master Race Book 8, which I'll be honest.
I'm surprised you kept up with this.
Yes. But also I had forgotten that it was still even going on, because they had taken such a long break in between issues or books or whatever you want to call them, that I had forgotten that it was even still going on. Really? Also because it's been a huge disappointment, at least for me. I don't know how you feel about it, Tyler, but
I'd have to read it to have an opinion.
Oh, really? You haven't even started?
No, I never read The Dark Knight Strikes Again, so I feel like I've got to read that first, and I'm trying to get caught up on my week-to-week issues, so no.
Yeah, it's been a big disappointment. Obviously, I've made my thoughts on Superman pretty clear on the podcast. Superman has always been a part of this story.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But he's played a bigger role as the series has gone on, and at this point, Batman is almost like an afterthought in this book, because he's an old man now, and there's very little that he can do at this point. And the master race is a race of Kryptonians, and so it's a Superman villain, and Batman can't even basically stand up at this point. And so he's worthless at this point, and it's just it's been really disappointing, because it's, like I said, it's just like a Superman story featuring Batman, and you take a character that I don't really like and you take over a book of a character that I love. It's obviously really disappointing. Book 8 was a lot better than the past 7, just because it was a lot more action packed. Unfortunately, it didn't have much plot development. Like, not a whole lot goes on.
Yeah.
But Wonder Woman kicks some serious ass, and it's pretty awesome.
I was actually going to ask you how Wonder Woman was in it, because I noticed she was on the cover of issue 8.
Yeah, they've kind of teased her for the last couple of issues, but she finally comes to the forefront in this particular issue, because you can't always go with cover art with comics, because they'll do a bunch of goofy stuff and then it really has nothing to do with what's on the cover. But she kicks some serious ass in book 8, which was really cool to see. It's really action packed, but not a ton of plot development. And I believe book 9 is the end, so I'm curious to see what happens, because I think it was originally only supposed to be 8 parts, and then they tacked on a 9th, which is something they've been doing with events in the last couple of years, which is weird. So I don't want to say excited. I'm more excited for it to be done than anything else. But I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends. I started collecting Greg Capullo, his
covers.
Yeah, his Midtown exclusive covers, and I kind of feel like that was a waste, because I don't really like the book that much, but his covers look pretty awesome.
Yeah, I've been actually buying those too, just because, I mean, we're both huge fans of his, and it's cool that they're Midtown exclusives. But yeah, comic has been such an afterthought to me. I've been buying it because I'm interested in reading it. I just got to get caught up to that point. I got it at the comic book store the other day, and the lady ringing me up said, "Oh, this is getting ready to end," and it was just like such an afterthought to me. Like, oh, what's getting ready to end? Like, oh yeah, I forgot I'm buying that.
Yeah.
Again, it's just a complete afterthought to what I've been reading. So I'll get there eventually, and I'll finish it out. But I'm not anywhere close to being ready to read that.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, though, the reason I never read Dark Knight Strikes Again is because that's disappointing too, right?
Yeah, he set the bar pretty high with Dark Knight Returns, and it's slowly gone downhill from that.
Yeah, that's disappointing, but it's like you said, you start off this book in the 80s that a lot of people regard as the best comic of all time, but again, the character is super old already, so now you've done 2 sequels to it. At what point is he just have dementia and bedridden?
So I don't want to spoil anything, so I will be extremely vague with this, but something happens in book 7 that kind of ties that loose end a little bit. I guess it's not really a loose end, but kind of fixes that problem a little bit. And if you know anything about Batman's history, you might be able to kind of guess what happens. But yeah, I won't spoil anything, but it's kind of interesting.
Gotcha. All right. So
you ready for some nerd news?
Yeah. So this was actually a decent week for nerd news, I guess, because CinemaCon was going on, and I think Vegas, possibly.
Sure.
So a lot of trailers, a lot of first looks at things. So I don't know. I know that you're not really the trailer guy, so I don't know what you've seen, what you haven't seen. So
just start listing them off.
Yeah,
I'll tell you if I've seen them.
This might just be Tyler's opinion on some trailers, but
okay.
I got 3 trailers and then actual news. So Justice League, new trailer was put out for the Justice League last weekend.
I purposely didn't watch it.
Yeah. So it's kind of, I work with some guys that are DC fans, and I talk to them about it. And I think everybody I've talked to has been on the same page. The trailer looks really great, but we all have very tempered expectations because of the way that we've been, dwindled before. So there's one thing that happens in the trailer, and I want your opinion on it. And it's not that big of a thing, but Batman's riding the Batmobile and he's shooting at parademons with his Batmobile. So obviously my biggest, if you go back and listen to our review, my biggest problem with Batman v Superman is Batman doesn't kill. And in that movie, he kills and the Batmobile just fucking shoots guns.
Yep.
But I'm okay with him killing parademons, I think. But I'm curious what your opinion on it is.
It bothers me. I mean, it bothered me in Batman v Superman, but it was the least of my problems with that movie. It doesn't bother me because if you're going to set that standard, that's fine. I mean, I don't like it, but it's your interpretation of that character. And I don't want to say that I like it because I don't, but if you're going to do that, then you have to be consistent that that's what that character is going to do.
Well, I was hoping what they would retcon or how they would retcon it would be, you know, Batman's supposed to be so moved by Superman's sacrifice and all this, and that helps motivate him to get the Justice League together. And I was hoping that he goes back to his ways of, you know, life is important, blah, blah, blah. And that's what they would have done. And it's not necessarily that they're not doing that, because parademons are not humans. They're flying winged creatures. So, I mean, then you get into like the whole art. Do they have souls? Do any of us have souls? I guess a slippery slope, but it's pretty sad. Out of this new Batman, like the movie that he's the most Batman in is Suicide Squad. Like he's handcuffing people and, you know, diving into the lake or the river to save Harley Quinn and all that kind of stuff. And you see him in these Zack Snyder movies shooting guns. So
it bothers me in a sense, but like I said, it's consistent with what the character that we've seen so far. And it doesn't bother me that much to think that at the point of Batman v Superman, we see him and he's been doing it for how many years he's been doing it. I don't remember because that movie's so fucking long.
I'd assume 20 years. Yeah. He's in his 40s.
So maybe he started off like that and this is just a progression. So we're seeing him kind of at the end of his rope, so to speak.
That's kind of what I'm saying is what I got out of it.
Yeah, it would have been cool to not see that. Yeah. But if that's the choice that they're going to make with the character, I don't mind that they stayed consistent with it.
I don't know how it's going. So I'm just, instead of doing the trailers and the news, I'm going to just segue this into the news. So you posted it. I know you saw it. Joss Whedon is going to be writing and directing a Batgirl movie.
Yes.
And then, of course, we talked about a month ago, Chris McKay, who made the Lego Batman movie, is going to be making a Nightwing movie. So they're doing what I've had wet dreams about, which is making the Batman universe a thing in film with the supporting characters that they've always shied away from. So Joss Whedon, I mean, he is king nerd at a certain point. He's not going to make a Batgirl movie that's gritty where she's killing people. They're going to make a fun Batgirl movie like the new 52 comic. Yeah. So and same with Chris McKay and the Nightwing character. I mean, you watch Lego Batman, he seems to really get the characters. So these characters probably are going to have a code and probably aren't going to kill, and I'm assuming that. So how do they fit in the greater Batman universe? And I think that there's some cool story to possibly tell there, but I also think that thing that they lack is a Kevin Feige that's overseeing all of that to make sure it all ties together. Like Jeff Johns can try all he wants, but you don't see his name out there as much as you see Kevin Feige's.
Yeah, that's among the many problems I have with those movies, it just seems like they don't have that clear vision. Because like you said, these movies are going to be more of a comedy. Not really a comedy, but they're going to be not quite as serious as the Zack Snyder movies. And it's just not going to fit in that world. And it's just more things to bitch about with Warner Brothers and DC.
I don't know. I've always been a Zack Snyder apologist because I think he has made good stuff.
I do too. I like Watchmen and I like 300.
I think they should have taken Justice League away from him after Batman v Superman kind of didn't hit with fans.
Yeah.
Like, not even so much the critics aside. Like, the critics are going to say what the critics are going to say, but you got to do it for the fans. And if the fans liked it, great. But they don't. So
yeah,
I think you have to readjust and go a different direction, which is probably, weren't
they already working on it though?
Maybe that's it. Maybe it was too late to do it. But, you know, they were supposed to have 2-part Justice League and they were going to film it back to back. And then they said, well, we'll just do the one. So maybe that was their way of kind of stopping it in their tracks. And they're going to readjust with the movies that come after Justice League, like Birds of Prey and Batgirl and Nightwing and the stuff that fans have seemed to like. I mean, we can hope, but...
Yeah, I felt bad when I first read that story that he was getting pulled into this shitty universe. But, I mean, he doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. So he obviously has an idea of what he wants to make this character. And he's a very talented guy, and I trust that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, and he's really, it's kind of weird to say because he's a white middle-aged man, but he's really good at telling stories about heroines.
Sure.
So I think that he's going to deliver something pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I have high hopes for it. Let's see. So 2 more trailers we'll talk about that. I know you've seen one of them because one of them showed before our movie last night that we're getting ready to review, but I don't know that you watched the other one.
Okay.
I hope you didn't watch the other one. So the other one is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes, I saw that because we
Oh, did that play last night?
Which one were you talking about?
It.
Oh, okay. I thought, no, I've seen obviously the first Homecoming.
No, the new Homecoming trailer.
No, I have not seen that.
Don't watch it.
Okay.
Because I think it gives away the whole movie. So
that's why I don't watch the second trailer.
So it's really good. Like the trailer looks really awesome and it looks like it's going to have a cool plot, but it gives away so much that's going to happen in a movie that doesn't come out till July. And I'm not even going to blame it on Disney or Marvel. It's got to be Sony, because look at Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. They've put out two or three trailers for that movie and a bunch of merchandise, and I have no idea what it's about. I don't know who the antagonist is. I don't know what they're up against. I know Thanos isn't in it because of James Gunn, but besides that, I don't know anything about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Whereas I just saw the whole plot of Spider-Man Homecoming in a trailer that came out 5 months before the movie does.
Yeah, I've gotten to the point, and I have had to be pretty hard and fast about it. I'll watch that first one, but I'm not going to watch the rest. I'm not going to watch the 3 other trailers that are going to come out before the movie. I don't want to know what the movie's about. And that's disappointing. Like, I really wanted to watch the War for Planet of the Apes new trailer. I have not watched it because I want to know as little as physically possible about that movie. I don't know. It bothers me. I mean, I get it. People are excited for these movies, and I kind of feel like an old man when I'm complaining about it. But at the same time, I just feel like, don't you want to be surprised at anything? Like, that's half of the fun of going to see movies. I feel like I should watch them because we talk about them on the podcast, but at the same time, I just want to be surprised. I don't see how I'm going to avoid it between now and then.
It'll show before Guardians, I'm sure, at least.
Oh, yeah.
At least, if it doesn't show on other movies besides that, but...
Yeah,
it's disappointing. So the last trailer was the one that showed before Ghost in the Shell, and that's It, which is a movie that we've talked about a few times and that I'm really excited for because I love Stephen King. And I thought this trailer was super dope.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Like, Brittany watched it, my wife, and she's like, I don't get it. I'm just not scared of clowns. And I'm like, well, he's not a clown. He's a personification of fear. Yeah. But even the clown parts were pretty creepy. Like, I think that it's going to be a really good movie. I got my hopes up.
Yeah, it has some really cool elements in it. Like, they have the boat thing, which I thought I think it was on IGN or maybe it was comicbook.com where they had it like split screen and you could watch the original, that scene from the miniseries and then the new movie, and it's almost dead up the same, but they had a few changes here and there that I kind of liked. Yeah. I didn't like the scene they cut in the trailer, and he kind of does this weird thing in the water where he's like going crazy. That looks pretty cheesy. But other than that, they have some cool elements like that when they're watching the home video, and they have like a sinister type of feel to it. So I really like that. I wasn't aware that what's his name from Stranger Things was in it, and I thought that was pretty cool. I like that he's playing like a side character too. He's not the main kid, so I like that. I'm pretty psyched for this movie. It looks pretty good.
So remind me, is this part of our Rotten Tomatoes draft? Did you draft this?
Yes, I have this.
Okay, you do have this. I went through and I was trying to remember all the movies that we did, and I'm getting real pissed off because I've already posted it on our website and everything. You can check it out, thenerdspodcast.com. Just click on the Rotten Tomatoes film scorecard, and you can check out everything so far, and you can also check out last year's movies as well. But I always put the release date, and since then, like 3 movies have been pushed back. I think Kingsman got actually moved up a week or two.
Did it get moved up? I thought it got moved back.
Maybe. I don't know.
It literally is only like a week because they didn't want to go up against Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of weird to begin with when I saw that when we originally started thinking about the movies that were going to be in our draft this year. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird that those 2 movies are coming out the same day. And then, of course, they got bumped. Kingsman got bumped back, and then Dark Tower, I don't know if that was going to be part of Nerd News, but Dark Tower just got pushed back to September?
No, I didn't see that, so no.
Yeah, because the Emoji Movie was going to come out that same weekend.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yes. So it got pushed back because of that shitty movie.
So Patrick Stewart doesn't want to play Charles Xavier anymore, but he's willing to play the poop emoji in the Emoji Movie. Cool, man.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Yeah, that is actually all I have for Nerd News. So.
All right, so the next segment is just kind of titled our main topic because it changes from episode to episode. We're going to be doing a lot of movie reviews, and we're actually going to be reviewing The Ghost in the Shell, which is a movie based on the popular anime, the manga, I guess is what they're called. Yeah. I'm going to sound completely arrogant, or not arrogant. Ignorant is the word that I was looking for that I completely blanked on, because I am not a fan of anime at all. There's nothing wrong with it. We talk about this all the time. There's so much in geek culture that there's just no way that we're going to be fans of all of it. It's just something that I never got into. I don't think that you're into it unless you're secretly into it and never have told me.
No, we're the nerds you're looking for unless you're into anime. Then we're not.
Yeah, so it's based on that popular anime of the same name. It's directed by Rupert Sanders, which was not a filmmaker that I was familiar with. I actually had to look it up in the little prep that I did for this episode. And he actually wrote and directed that shitty Snow White and the Huntsman movie. And that's pretty much all he's done. So this movie stars Scarlett Johansson as Major, a cybernetic enhanced soldier who is in an elite squad of policemen called Section 9 who track down terrorists in futuristic Japan. So because I'm not a fan of anime and I didn't know anything about this, I had pretty low expectations for this movie. Didn't know anything about the source material, didn't know anything about it at all. But the trailer made it look pretty cool. I thought it was a decent trailer until I actually saw the movie. And I'm not a fan of that trailer anymore, but we'll get into that. So I had modest expectations for it because I thought it looked pretty cool, and I'm always looking for that new sci-fi type of movie that kind of blows me away. I wanted, what's it called? That Chris Evans train movie.
Snowpiercer?
Yes, I wanted that to be that movie a couple of years ago, and unfortunately I didn't love it as much as everyone else did, but I'm always looking for that movie that kind of blows me away. Yeah, and unfortunately we'll get into why it wasn't that movie for me, but I had fair expectations for this movie going in.
Yeah, so I definitely want to preface everything I say by also putting out there that I'm not familiar with the source material at all. So are we doing broad strokes? Or let's just jump right into it. So, that being said, in talking with some people I know that love the source material, it seems like this movie failed to please either audience.
Yes, that's what I've heard as well.
The people that love it hate the movie, and the people who know nothing about it, like us, seem to dislike the movie as well. So this movie felt like homework to me, sitting there watching it. I thought it was bland. I thought it was boring. The cinematography, the set design, the visuals were all really cool, but everything else was just subpar and definitely was style over substance.
Yes, absolutely. I found it ironic that a movie about someone trying to find their humanity literally had no heart to it whatsoever.
Oh, God, yeah.
It was all empty calories. Like, it was definitely style. I literally have that same thing in here. All style, almost no substance. The reason I hated the trailer after seeing the movie is you get literally every major plot detail from the trailer.
Yep.
Except for maybe a point at the end, and that's about it. Yeah. But at that point, I didn't really care about it. I mean, it was style, almost all style and no substance. So let's dive into the story, which is the part of the movie that I had the most problems with.
Yeah, so I didn't think that there was any way going into this movie that someone could take the premise of it and make it as boring as it turned out to be. Because I thought it was such a cool premise. They threw some twists and turns into the story, but somehow it all still just felt really linear and mundane. There's no character development, or at least nothing I cared about. And by the time that they throw in twists about character development, I had no attachment to any of the characters anyway, so I didn't care. The storytelling was so poor that I couldn't tell when things were revving up. Like, the third act didn't feel like a climax to me at all. It just felt like, all right, this is happening now, and then maybe the movie's over. Or I don't know if they're going to go on to something else. I can't really tell. And it's hard to say much more about the story because it elicited no emotional response for me at all. And that's how I find myself enjoying movies. Like it was just a really bland, mundane experience.
So this is based on, like I said, the anime franchise, and it's fairly popular. I mean,
yeah.
I can't imagine that the story is the same. They had to have taken, like, the way I feel about it is they had to have taken like the lowest common denominator of that story, just like the basic plot points, and put it into this movie. Because there's no way that this movie is the story that everybody loves.
Yeah.
I mean, not knowing the source material at all, there's just no way that this story is that popular, because it was really, really fucking boring. It was just your sci-fi, just generic story that it was just boring. I almost fell asleep during this movie too. And I don't fall asleep during movies very often. This episode is just making me feel like I just sleep all the time. But no, it was just really, really boring. Like, there was, like you said, no character development. There was this whole team of these elite soldiers, and I didn't care about any of them.
No.
There's almost no development. Even Scarlett Johansson's character Major had very little development, and she's the main fucking character, and you barely know anything about her. And her partner, really, you find out that he loves dogs, stray dogs, and that's it. There is about like 4 or 5 other squad members, and you know almost nothing about them. They are in this movie for almost no reason whatsoever. There is literally a moment in the movie where they talk for like 30 seconds. And so you kind of get to know them for as much as you can get to know them in 30 seconds. And then there's another part where they hand them guns in a window, and that's it. Like, I don't think you see them again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could easily take these characters out of this movie and you lose nothing. The little squad leader is about the only thing that you need in this movie. And you honestly don't really even need him, to be honest with you. I have no idea what the main villain's motivations are at all.
No.
Like, they talk about how Major is like this big development with this company, but you have no idea why she's this special project, and they make her like just a regular soldier in this police squad.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like, you would think that they spent all this money, they would do something else with this. I don't understand why, because nothing's explained at all. You have this big reveal, and this villain kind of shows himself at the end of the movie, but I don't care, because I have no idea what his motivations are at all. And I don't know. No. You're supposed to be afraid of him. He gets in this tank, and they say it like it's a big dramatic thing. Oh, let's get the spider tank. I don't fucking know what a spider tank is. And then it didn't even look that cool when you saw it. It was just, think of what you think a spider tank is right now, and that's exactly what it looked like. There was no imagination with it whatsoever. The visuals did look cool, but the story was just a bummer, man.
Oh, for sure.
So performances.
So I do want to start off before I get into slamming the performances by saying that I think that Scarlett Johansson's actually become one of my favorite actresses over the last few years. I really love the way that she chooses her films, and I think that she has a pretty cool filmography that's pretty diverse. For sure. And I think that that's what she probably thought about when she decided to be in this movie. That being said, I was ready to come into it saying that she was good, but in reality, none of the performances made me care about the characters at all. So I can't give anyone credit. And I'm sure part of that is due to the story, like we just talked about. But I mean, that relies on the actors and actresses as well. So watching it, I could care less who lived and who died, except for you mentioned her partner, Batau, I believe is his name. I might be mispronouncing that. I liked him because he liked dogs. But again, that's all you learn about him. And it's just, you don't care. And the fact that I didn't care about the story and I didn't care about the characters shows me that the performances in this movie didn't succeed.
Yeah, I liked some of the choices that Scarlett Johansson made, like when she's like walking around, she walks like she's a robot. Like she has a very weird walk. It was kind of distracting, but then I thought like that makes sense. Like she's walking weird. She's part robot. Like that would make sense to me. Like, so she made some interesting choices, but it just didn't work for me. The material was just shitty. Like, I don't think anybody had really much to work with because the material was so bad. And I know I'm kind of giving her a pass because she does pick her films really well. And I think she's a really talented actress. But so I'd like to think that it wasn't just her and that it was a lot of the material, but Michael Pitt was the same way. Like, I think he's a really good actor. He's great in Boardwalk Empire, and he does almost nothing in this movie, but honestly, he's not really in it that much.
Yeah.
The trailer would make you think that he's going to be in it a lot more, and he's really not. So all around, there just really wasn't a whole lot going on in this movie that, performances wise, that they're not horrible, but like I said, there's just no development there, and it's just hard to root for anybody. So when the shit hits the fan and some of the more dramatic parts of this movie, it's just like I don't feel for these characters at all. So even if they're giving a halfway decent performance, it's just not getting any emotional like response from me.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So the action, which second to the story, was the most disappointing part for me, because I thought that this movie was gonna be really, really cool, and it looked cool. It definitely had an interesting style to it. I would hope so, because I think they spent like $100 million on this movie. The set looked really cool. Just the cinematography was really cool, but the action was really, really kind of vanilla.
Yeah, it was very average, and I think I chalk it up to this needed to be an R-rated movie, and it's not. It's PG-13. I think they could have done a lot more stuff that was cool and out there if they had had that extra step in the rating scale, but nothing blew me away. I was expecting it to, given the trailers. I thought the trailers would be just a tease of the cool things that were to come, and it wasn't. And like you said, very, very vanilla.
Yeah, I kept waiting for it to get cool. Like, I was like, man, they could do so much with this movie. They have all of this money, and they have this cool universe that they're working with, and they just made this really generic sci-fi movie that, and you see all of the cool shit in the trailers. Like I thought that scene where she's in that like pool of water and she punches that guy, I was like, man, I saw that trailer, I was like, that scene's gonna look badass, and it really, really isn't. It's pretty much just her punching him, and that's pretty much it. Like she jumps through that glass at the beginning, which was pretty cool, but I mean, there's not much to that scene either. The robot looks pretty cool. The robot geisha was pretty cool, but that scene's so short, and they really never play with that robotic kind of action again. And that was disappointing. It really is just kind of them walking around and trying to solve this like crime drama. But even that, because the story is so weak, it just doesn't do anything for me.
No, I absolutely agree. Not invested in the action, not invested in the characters, not invested in the story. It was a really big bummer.
And I know it's probably a lazy association just because she's in Winter Soldier again, but I felt like the club scene, they wanted to kind of have that elevator type from Winter Soldier, that type of scene, and her being in handcuffs. I mean, it worked for me for other reasons. But like, it just, as an action set piece, it didn't have that same, like, it didn't work for me.
Yeah.
All right. So that might be the shortest review we've ever had, but it's just probably more than anyone should talk about this movie.
Well, it's just so hard to talk about a movie that elicited no response. Like, it's just so bland.
Yeah, for sure. So star rating?
I'm going to give it 2 stars.
I think I want to give it more credit just because it looks so cool. So I was kind of going back and forth between 2.5. But the more we talked about it, the more I kind of digested it a little bit more and thought about it. I think I'm going to go with 2 as well, because it was a pretty big letdown.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so our next and last segment is just nerd favorite. Tyler and I take turns asking a really nerdy question, what our favorite blank is. Obviously, the subject changes from episode to episode. And since we just talked about Scarlett Johansson and Ghost in the Shell, I thought that we could talk about our favorite Scarlett Johansson performance. I chose performance instead of film just because I feel like we're huge fans of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that would be kind of our go-to answer would be the Avengers or maybe not Iron Man 2, but one of those movies would probably be our answer. So I went with performance. That way we could kind of go a different direction with it, mainly because I wanted to talk about a particular movie that we reviewed way back when. Don't listen to it because it was back when we still weren't very good. It's Her. I just think that she does. It's a weird performance, obviously, because you never actually see her. You just see her or hear her voice. And I just think that she does so much with just her voice in this movie. Joaquin Phoenix obviously has to have somebody to play off of, and just the inflection that she has in her voice. I don't know if anybody else could have done it, because she doesn't necessarily have a unique voice, but she does. So it kind of works because it doesn't take you out of the movie, but she does so much, just the inflection, that I don't know if somebody else could have made that movie what it is, because I really, really like that movie a lot. And I don't know if anybody else done that part that it would have been as good of a movie.
Okay. That's fair. I think that she's really great in that movie. The two performances that I'm actually going back and forth between are two movies that I don't actually really like that much. But
really?
I think that she's really great in them. I'm going back and forth between Hail Caesar, which came out last year. She has a very small part in it, but it's funny. The way that she plays it is her character off screen is completely different than her character on screen. And it was funny to me. But the movie I think I'm actually going to go with is a movie I actually haven't seen in quite a while, but Don John.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that she was really funny in that movie. And I don't know. I just like the thick New York accent, and her and Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing off of each other as those Guido type characters was really funny to me. And I thought that movie is not great, but it's kind of come and gone, and it maybe deserved a little bit more attention than what it got, especially since it was the Hyphen's directorial debut. I think he got a pretty cool performance out of her. And just going back to what I said in our Ghost in the Shell review, going through her filmography, I really just like the way that she, picks her movies. I think that she's an underrated actress for sure. She delivers some awesome performances.
When I was prepping for this little segment, I went through her filmography, and I assumed, when I thought of the question, I assumed that you're going to go with The Prestige, because I know you're a bigger fan of that movie than most people were.
Yeah, I really like that movie a lot, but to me, she doesn't do much in it.
Oh, no, she's barely in it.
Whereas in Don John and Hail Caesar, she kind of makes a decision on how her character is going to act and be, and she goes with it. And I really respect that, especially in those movies that aren't that great, but she's kind of like a shining spot in them.
Yeah, I kind of forgotten that she was in Hail Caesar too, because there's so many people in that movie, and she really doesn't play that big of a role in that movie. And doesn't she die like off screen in that movie? Somebody dies.
Does she? I thought she ended up with Jonah Hill, or
maybe she did. I don't remember.
That movie was not good.
No.
Talk about another mundane movie that was really boring to me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right, so that's it's the end of episode 135. I think this is the shortest we've ever gone in like a real long time. I think we're going to go under the hour mark, which I don't know if we've done in a long time. But yeah, so that's episode 135. As always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram. It's both at The Nerds Podcast. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Google+. Vote for us for our Podcast of the Month at podcastland.com. You can comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out our Twitch channel, which Tyler does a weekly stream Monday at 9 p.m. Central. Subscribe, rate, review us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, basically any good podcatcher you use. We're on it. Email us at thenerdyourlookingfor@gmail.com. For Patrick Kuhn,
Tyler Hunt,
we are the Nerd You're Looking For. Take it easy, guys.
Later, guys.